So the angel of the Lord encamps around about them that fear him and delivers them. I have caught myself, I don't know, have you ever prayed that God sends his angels to stand guard around you or somebody else? And I've had to think, do I need to pray for that? Right here it says, the angel of the Lord encamps around about them that what? That fear him, and he delivers them. And I don't know, what do you think? Is that something we need to pray for, or do I need to, my concern needs to be with my position? Is that right? I need to fear God. Thank him for it instead of praying for it. But anyway, as we were singing that song, that came up in my mind again, the blessing that we have as the people of God, the protection that is a given. I don't know, how are your kidneys doing? That was good, Jim. I had to think in the Sunday school lesson, the rich man, young ruler, his kidneys weren't functioning. They weren't filtering out everything, right? His mind was going the wrong place. And yeah, thanks for the reading too, Darren. I had to think, sometimes if I don't know what to do next, Paul told Timothy, give attendance to reading. That was and I was blessed just sitting there listening to Darren read down through that and change a few words too, but I don't know. But give attendance to reading. I have to think in my times with the Lord, if I feel drained or empty and don't know what to do, just start reading. Give attendance to reading. Doesn't have to be something flashy, the next new thing, or some formula, right? Just open God's Word and start reading, and see what God is faithful. Last weekend, Charlene and I were at a cabin that blessed me in ways I was not expecting. So we wanted some time. I needed some time to get our schedules coordinated for the year and talk through some things, do some planning. And we got to the gate. It was in a gated community. I assume they have it gated because people probably like to hike, or to look for places. It wasn't that far away. It was just between here and Laramie. And so the owner met us at the gate, and we followed him down in the canyon, down to this Airbnb. And as he's showing us around, and he said, oh, by the way, there's no Wi-Fi here. And I'm like, wait, what a minute. What did you just say? I saw Wi-Fi on the Airbnb listing. I didn't go back and check, but I'm assuming it must say no Wi-Fi. Details matter. I didn't catch that. And that was the best thing for me. There was no data coverage, no Wi-Fi. And I was like, you know what? This is what it used to feel like. It was a good detox. And I ended up reading a book that Charlotte was like, I got to read you at least the last 2 chapters, because she was finishing up the book. I was like, sure, that sounds like that'd be fun to do. And I got to move something here. Felt like I was walking on papers. So she read the end of a book, and I was like, you know what? I have not read a novel in a very, very long time. I'm going to go back. The next morning, I picked that up and started reading. And it's a book that was written, I think 25, 30 years ago. The first book after the author became a Christian. And it's interesting that she wrote this book after She loved writing. I think she wrote romance novels. And after becoming a Christian, the first book she wrote was Redeemed Love. And it's the book of Hosea, placed in the setting of, I think, like 1850s gold rush, California. And a farmer ends up marrying a prostitute. And she leaves. And he goes and gets her. She leaves again. And he went after her that time. The third time she left, he didn't go after her. And it's a picture. I said, I'm going to go back and read. So I read most of the book. I didn't read all of it, but I went back and I pulled out I opened to the Hosea and read it. And the things that stood out to me, why did she leave? She had a good husband. Why did she go back to her other life? Why do I leave? Each one of us as believers are married to Christ. Why do I go back? Then there's reasons. I had to think this really fits in with talking about the mind, and we need a filter. Our conscience needs to be educated by the heart of God. And in Hosea, we see God's heart in this story. What is God's heart? I am not going to filter my thoughts properly. My kidneys aren't going to work properly if it's not based on, if I don't know God's heart. What stood out to me was the misunderstandings. She thought one thing, and he thought another. Israel, in the book of Hosea, had walked away from God. They were not obeying him, and they were about to go into captivity, I believe. And God was saying, my heart is for you to be in relationship with me. But that's not what you're doing with it. Another thing is, why is that? I think it came up in Sunday school class, but our pride gets in the way. In marriage, those of us that are married, we know that. Our pride gets in the way of good relationship. Our pride gets in the way of intimacy with God also. And this story illustrates that. I'd like to turn with me to Hosea. I'd like to read the first 3 chapters. It's one of the small books right after all the big ones. Hosea chapter 1. The word of the Lord which came to Hosea the son of Beeri during the days of Uzziah, Jotham, Ahaz, and Hezekiah, kings of Judah, and during the days of Jeroboam the son of Joash, king of Israel, when the Lord spoke through Hosea, the Lord said to Hosea, Go, take to yourself a wife of harlotry and have children of harlotry, for the land commits flagrant harlotry, forsaking the Lord. So he went and took Gomer, the daughter of Diblaim, and she conceived and bore him a son. And the Lord said to him, Name him Jezreel, for yet a little while, and I will punish the house of Jehu for the bloodshed of Jezreel. And I will put an end to the kingdom of the house of Israel. On that day I will break the bow of Israel in the valley of Jezreel. Then she conceived again, and gave birth to a daughter. And the Lord said to him, Name her Lo Rahama, for I will no longer have compassion on the house of Israel, that I would ever forgive them. But I will have compassion on the house of Judah, and deliver them by the Lord their God, and will not deliver them by bow, sword, battle, horses, or horsemen. And when she had weaned Lo Ruhamah, she conceived and gave birth to a son. And the Lord said, Name him Lo-Ami, for you are not my people, and I am not your God. Yet the number of the sons of Israel will be like the sand of the sea, which cannot be measured or numbered. And in the place where it is said to them, You are not my people, it will be said to them, You are the sons of the living God. And the sons of Judah and the sons of Israel will be gathered together, and they will appoint for themselves one leader, and they will go up from the land, for great will be the day of Jezreel. Say to your brothers, Ami, and to your sisters, Rohamah. That's my people, I love you. Contend with your mother, contend, for she is not my wife, and I am not her husband. And let her put away her harlotry from her face, and her adultery from between her breasts, or I will strip her naked, and expose her as on the day when she was born. I will also make her like a wilderness, make her like a desert land, and slay her with thirst. Also, I will have no compassion on her children, because they are children of harlotry. For their mother has played the harlot. She who conceived them has acted shamefully. For she said, I will go after my lovers, who give me my bread and my water, my wool and my flax, my oil and my drink. Therefore, behold, I will hedge up her way with thorns, and I will build a wall against her so that she cannot find her paths. She will pursue her lovers, but she will not overtake them. And she will seek them, but will not find them. Then she will say, I will go back to my first husband, for it was better for me than now. For she does not know that it was I who gave her the grain, the new wine, and the oil, and lavished on her silver and gold, which they used for Baal. Therefore, I will take back my grain at harvest time, and my new wine in its season. I will also take away my wool and my flax, given to cover her nakedness, and then I will uncover her lewdness in the sight of her lovers, and no one will rescue her out of my hand. I will also put an end to all her gaiety, her feasts, her new moons, her Sabbaths, and all her festal assemblies. I will destroy her vines and fig trees, of which she said, These are my wages, which my lovers have given me, and I will make them a forest. And the beasts of the field will devour them. I will punish her for the days of the Baals, when she used to offer sacrifices to them and adorn herself with her earrings and jewelry, and follow her lovers, so that she forgot me, declares the Lord. Therefore, behold, I will allure her, bring her into the wilderness, and speak kindly to her. Then I will give her her vineyards from there, and the valley of Achor as a door of hope. And she will sing there as in the days of her youth, as in the days when she came up from the land of Egypt. It will come about in that day, declares the Lord, that you will call me Ishi, and will no longer call me Baali. For I will remove the names of the Baals from her mouth, so that they will be mentioned by their names no more. In that day I will also make a covenant for them with the beasts of the field, the birds of the sky, and the creeping things of the ground, and I will abolish the bow, the sword, the war from the land, and I will make them lie down in safety. I will betroth you to me forever. Yes, I will betroth you to me in righteousness and in justice, in loving kindness and in compassion, and I will betroth you to me in faithfulness. Then you will know the Lord. It will come about in that day that I will respond, declares the Lord. I will respond to the heavens, and they will respond to the earth. And the earth will respond to the grain, to the new wine, and to the oil. And they will respond to Jezreel. I will sow her for myself in the land. I will also have compassion on her who had not obtained compassion. And I will say to those who were not my people, You are my people. And they will say, You are my God. Then the Lord said to me, Go again, love a woman who is loved by her husband, yet an adulteress, even as the Lord loves the sons of Israel, though they turn to other gods and love raisin cakes. So I bought her for myself for 15 shekels of silver and a homer and a half of barley. Then I said to her, You shall stay with me for many days. You shall not play the harlot, nor shall you have a man, so I will also be toward you. For the sons of Israel will remain for many days without king or prince, without sacrifice or sacred pillar, and without ephod or household idols. Afterward, the sons of Israel will return and seek the Lord their God and David their king, and they will come trembling to the Lord and to his goodness in the last days. So as we see her in chapter 2, verse 5, where she says, I will go after my lovers who give me bread and water. As I read down through this and get over to further down the chapter, so there it says, I will go after my lovers who give me bread and water, my wool and my flax, my oil and my drink. And then down in verse 8, for she does not know that it was I who gave her the grain, the new wine and the oil, and lavished on her silver and gold, which they used for Baal. Bread and water versus silver and gold. One thing Jim mentioned, I can intentionally choose, right? Intentionally make a decision. Here, she's choosing bread and water over silver and gold. What is the silver and gold of the kingdom? What's God giving us that is silver and gold? This part of it jumped out at me as I think if I worry about the future, wonder if that's where the rich young ruler was too. Well, if I sell everything and give to the poor, how do I pay my bills? If I worry about the future, I'm not being honest. I'm not looking properly at it that God has taken care of me already, right? All these years, God has taken care of me. Where has that come from? Every good gift comes from the Father in heaven. Every good gift comes from God. So I'm going to go back to what I can do, what I can control. Why would she go back to her other lovers? Think about what happens inside when you feel out of control. Am I going to go back to something I can control? She brought that out in the novel, and I was like, to understand how we think, love feels dangerous. Love is out of control. What was Jesus asking the rich young ruler to do? Love me with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength. He said, well, I did that. Well, have you really? Maybe there was some of that in there. Well, this feels, what's God going to ask of me? I'm going to go to something that I can control. So we look at this and say, why would a lady with a good husband, a prophet in Israel, go back to prostitution? But that's closer home than I like to admit. Loving God with all my heart, soul, mind, and strength is a scary thing. I need to step out and do things that I haven't done before. I have to step out of my comfort zone. This lady had to step into a committed relationship. She had never done that before, evidently. She had to step into caring for children, running a household. I don't know. Relationships with the neighbor lady, or with her husband's best friend. I mean, this is some of the plot that they bring out in that novel. And I was like, you know what? That's exactly how it is. It'd be easier to walk away from commitment. If I'm not filtering thoughts right, because in the long run, it really isn't. But it appears that way, right? I remember conversations with, what's the proper term for homeless? We're not supposed to call them homeless anymore, right? Did you know that? What? Displaced persons? I don't know, but homeless is kind of sticking them in a box, I guess. But all these same things are what's going through their minds. Well, I can't go home again. I've heard that. I can't go back to my parents. Well, maybe they can't. But why? There's broken relationships. I can't They got all kinds of reasons why they can't hold a job, or why they ended up in Cheyenne, or what. That can hit pretty close home. What am I avoiding because I say, well, I can't do that, or I can't face that person? It'd be easier to leave home and move and go somewhere else. That's what she was doing here. And yet we look at it and say, how could someone walk away from their husband like that? How could Israel just walk away from God, choosing bread and water over silver and gold? And yet I have done that. I have not, when I get worried or depressed, I am not in my situation, I'm not acknowledging that it all came from God. And here, God says, I will withdraw the gift. What's the reason? God says, I'm going to withdraw the gift so that there can be reconciliation happen, so that they realize where it's coming from. This is from God. God's heart in Hosea is to be reconciled to his people. The heart, he told Hosea, go back and get her, buy her back. That's a common belief too. Do I run to God when things get tough, or do I run from God? Something got rough, and she would go back. She would run. And before we move on, what is this silver and gold of the kingdom? One thing I had to think of, the provision, my mind went to identity. We are very rich as sons of God, sons and daughters. What if I lived like that all the time? The silver and gold that God is giving. I am redeemed and forgiven through the blood of Christ. I am chosen, holy, and dearly loved. Is God going to walk away from me? Is God going to walk away from you? I've kind of acted like I need to do things just right so God doesn't leave. Is that right? No. It's me that leaves. As I read this story, where did you put yourself? What character are you? Oh, I'm Hosea, right? You know what? I'm that adulterous wife that keeps wanting to run back to what I can control. But no, God is offering the silver and gold. I'm a temple of the Holy Spirit. I am joined to the Lord. In one spirit, I am free from condemnation. I am sealed with the Holy Spirit. I am strengthened by Him. I am God's workmanship. I am a citizen of heaven. I am never alone. Now you say, well, I'm glad I'm not a citizen of Greenland right now, right? Some big country's trying to take you over. Our citizenship isn't here anywhere. Oh, I'm glad I'm a citizen of the U.S. because we got a bigger army than anybody else, and we just bomb everybody to smithereens, you know. I'm not a citizen here. This isn't my country. I'm a citizen of heaven. That's some of this silver and gold. When provision is forgotten, gifts are perverted. In verse 8 there it says, she took that silver and gold and used it to worship another god. Ignorance leads to perversion of God's gifts. Blessings become bargaining chips. Gifts become gods, small g. And then God withdraws the gift, not to punish, but to awaken. I had to think, there's a battle in their mind going on here, right? Between Israel and God, between this wife, Gomer, and Hosea. In James 4, where do these battles come from? They come from our own lusts, our pleasures. Verse 1, what is the source of quarrels and conflicts among you? Is not the source your pleasures that wage war in your members? You lust and do not have, so you commit murder. You are envious and cannot obtain, so you fight and quarrel. You do not have because you do not ask. You ask and do not receive because you ask with wrong motives, so that you may spend it on your pleasures. You adulteresses, do you not know that friendship with the world is hostility toward God? Therefore, whoever wishes to be a friend of the world makes himself an enemy of God. So here, he lists pleasures, if I'm running after pleasures, lust, envy, having wrong motives. God withdraws the gift. We cannot be a friend of the world and a friend of God at the same time. And so we see this going on in these couple chapters here in Hosea. Why would I be discontent with God when there's no reason to be? Discontent is often not a supply problem. It's a source problem. It's a problem with my heart. Discontentment is not a supply problem. Often. Now it can be. There can be situations where there is true need, but it's most of the times, for us, for me anyway, it's a heart problem. The rich young ruler walked away clutching his silver and gold, clutching his bread and water. What am I clutching onto? The things of the world, the bread and water, or the silver and gold of the kingdom? Where am I looking for external change to meet the need of my heart? Have I settled for bread and water? What do I want? What am I here on this earth to cause? At the end of my life, it was mentioned this morning, there's no now the words slipped my mind. But anyway, behind the hearse. You can't tow a U-Haul. There's no U-Haul behind the hearse. You know, we think about, why am I here? What am I here to cause? Why did God put me here? And now we get to the good part. Verse 14. God says, but I will allure her. What is allure? I will allure her. It is not control. It is not dragging. It is not force. It is not using fear. God says, I will allure her. The allurement of God's love surpasses in power all other loves. God does not win us back by overpowering us. He wins us back by outloving our other loves. Allure is the attraction, the charm, and fascination driven by something desirable and beautiful. What draws us to a sunrise? Did anybody go out at 5 degrees this morning and look at the sunrise? I didn't either. I don't even know if there was one. Maybe the clouds were covering it. But I had to think, when it's cold outside, why do I step out to take a picture? Nobody's forcing me to, but I'm drawn to it, right? We're drawn to beauty. I don't know how cold it was the one morning up there. I went on a 2.5 mile hike. I think it was like 13 degrees. It was cold. And I'm like, I don't know if there's cats out here. I don't know. You know, this is a new area. Why would I go do that? The mountains draw me. There's allurement there, right? God says, I'm going to lure my bride back. I'm going to draw her. The power of attraction. We're drawn by retreat, by beauty, by quiet. This is a lure. I will speak kindly to her. In the novel, the third time, he did not go after her. And his family was upset at him. And it was 3 years. But he said, this time she needs to come back on her own. And she found the Lord and came back. Not because she found the Lord. It was some other events, because she thought she was staying away for a good reason. It's interesting what our minds do. I will allure her. Then I will give her her vineyards from there, and the valley of Achor as a door of hope. What was the valley of Achor? Anybody remember what else happened there in the life of the Israelites?
That's where Achan was stoned.
Yeah, think about Achan and his story. So they're coming into the promised land, and they are told, so if I'm walking intimately with God, and God tells me to do something, or asks me to, says this is how it's going to be, and then I go and do something else, I'm in sin, right? Achan was in sin. That city, don't keep any of the precious stuff. The next city, they could, right? It's that walking with God. What's God asking me today? But he kept and hid the things that they were told not to take. They were stoned and buried in this valley. So God's talking to the Israelites and says, okay, so that was a place of sin, right, in their history. And he says, I'll make the valley of Achor a door of hope. A place of death becomes a place of life. Where else do we see that? Well, the cross, right? A symbol of death in the Roman culture. That was the worst thing. Probably one of the worst tortures in the history of the world. And now Christians, we have them on the wall. People wear it on necklaces. The cross. Why? Because it's a symbol of life. I will take the valley of Achor. I will give it to you as a door of hope. This is the idea of a lifeline to longing. What are we longing for? That walk with, to be with our husband forever, right? I'm going to take your mess and redeem it. That's your death, dying to sin. That sin had to be taken care of. It becomes a place of life. Israel could not move ahead in freedom until that was repented of. And yet, the things that I need to repent of, when they looked at that valley, what did they think of? Probably of Achan and the sin and how terrible that was, right? I can look back on my sin and not want to talk about it. It's a shameful thing. I don't want to. But God says, I'm going to give that to you as part of your story, a door of hope that's going to tie you to me. She was redeemed from that. And my mess, when it's redeemed, makes me dangerous. Right? It's not something to be ashamed of. Handled the right way. Your redeemed mess makes you dangerous in the best way. So what would it look like to steward my story instead of being ashamed of it? My mess does not disqualify me. Your healed mess becomes a weapon against darkness. Paul said, run the race that is set before you. Not someone else's race, not a cleaner race. Run your race. And then a final word of hope here. And she will sing there as in the days of her youth, as in the day when she came up from the land of Egypt. She will sing there. God's redemption doesn't end in silence. It ends in a song. The place where you wept becomes a place where you worship. And it will come about in that day, verse 16, declares the Lord, that you will call me Ishi, or my husband. Or I think this generation would say, my guy. Yeah, I would say my man, but that's changed already. You can't keep up with that stuff. But in that day, you will call me Ishi. You will no longer call me Baali, my Lord. But it's an endearing term. God says, we will be intimate. For I will remove the names of the Baals from her mouth, so that they will be mentioned by their names no more. So if something is not getting mentioned by my mouth, that means it's not in here either, right? Because from the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. And so God says, they won't be mentioning these names anymore. In that day I will also make a covenant for them with the beasts of the field, the birds of the air, and the creeping things of the ground, and I will abolish the bow, the sword, and war from the land, and will make them lie down in safety. I will betroth you to me forever. Yes, I will betroth you to me in righteousness and in justice, in loving kindness and in compassion, and I will betroth you to me in faithfulness. Then you will know the Lord. What does it mean to know the Lord? Then you will know the Lord. All these things, righteousness, justice, loving kindness, compassion, faithfulness, these are part of the silver and gold of the kingdom, part of the beautiful things. And then you will know the Lord. How do I cultivate intimacy with God? I think we looked at the beginning, we talked about the things that are barriers. The things that keep me from walking with God. This morning I was thinking about a situation and starting to feel kind of a little bit upset about it, maybe more than a little bit. And I'm like, you know what? There's some thoughts here that I didn't think about the word filtered, but that's what they needed to be filtered. These were not thoughts that I need to dwell on the things that are good, the things that are right. And I had to make a decision to think differently. That's part of walking with God. But what does it mean? Then you will know the Lord. That word there is an intimate relationship, knowing and being with and together. It's not a head knowledge. It's the full experience. So am I walking with God today just trying to get more knowledge? Or do I want to know his heart? And to sit with, what does he really want? It doesn't matter what everybody else out there wants. What does God want? What pleases him? That's what we have to look forward to. All other distractions gone, all the battle, the filtering that needs to happen in the mind. God is saying, then you can walk with me intimately. You can know my heart. You can please me. And you have all the silver and gold of the kingdom. Verse 21, it will come about in that day that I will respond, declares the Lord. I will respond to the heavens, and they will respond to the earth. And the earth will respond to the grain, to the new wine, and to the oil. And they will respond to Jezreel. And I will sow her for myself in the land. I will also have compassion on her who had not obtained compassion. And I will say to those who were not my people, you're my people. And they will say, you are my God. You're my people, and you're my God. Wow. That takes away that need for striving, that need to, I made a mistake, and now I need to somehow make up for it. And I'm never going to be able to make up for it, so I might as well just go back to my old ways. Or I'm never going to please him. I need to perform, so I might as well just go back to my old ways. I don't see any of that in here. God is saying, in that day, he said, you are my people. And I can say, you are my God. We can know the giver. That valley of trouble, of discouragement, they lost a battle. People lost their lives. That valley of death can become a door of hope. Walk through that door of hope. And one day in that valley, you'll be able to sing.